The day my stepmother threw away my mother's ashes, it wasn't raining. I remember that detail so clearly because it felt like it should have been raining. Like the universe should have been crying with me. But instead, the sun was shining. Birds were singing. The world was going on like nothing had happened. Like my mother hadn't just been discarded like yesterday's trash. I was 22 years old when my father remarried. My mother had been gone for 3 years by then, cancer, quick and brutal. I thought I'd already survived the worst pain of my life. I was wrong. The worst pain was still waiting for me. And it came wrapped in a smile, wearing designer clothes, calling herself my new mother. Her name was Victoria. And she was about to learn that some things you can never take back. If you've ever lost someone you loved, if you've ever watched someone desecrate their memory, this story will cut deep. Hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready for one of the most emotional revenge stories you'll ever hear. Because what Victoria did to my mother's memory was unforgivable. And what happened to her next? Absolutely inevitable. My mother, Elena, was the kind of person who made everyone feel seen. She remembered your birthday even if you'd only met once. She kept a box of handwritten letters from everyone she'd ever loved. She planted roses in our backyard, not because she was good at gardening, but because she said beautiful things are worth the effort. When she got sick, she handled it the way she handled everything, with grace. Even in the hospital, she was comforting us. Telling my father he'd be okay. Telling me to take care of him. Telling us both that love doesn't end, it just changes form. She passed away on a Tuesday. I was 19. The funeral was beautiful. Hundreds of people came. They told stories about her kindness, her warmth, her ridiculous laugh that sounded like a seal barking. We laughed and cried in equal measure. Afterward, my father brought her ashes home in a beautiful wooden urn. We placed it on the mantle in the living room, her favorite spot, overlooking the garden she'd planted. "I want her here," my father said. "With us. Where she belongs." For 3 years, that urn stayed on the mantle. Every holiday, I'd talk to her. Every hard day, I'd sit beside her. Every good day, I'd tell her first. I thought that's how it would always be. Then my father met Victoria. Victoria was everything my mother wasn't. Where my mother was warm, Victoria was polished. Where my mother laughed loudly, Victoria smiled perfectly. Where my mother loved without condition, Victoria loved with calculation. My father was lonely. I understood that. 3 years is a long time. When he told me he was dating someone, I was happy for him. Genuinely. "I want you to meet her," he said. "She's wonderful. You'll love her." I didn't love her. But I tried. For my father, I tried. Music becomes more tense. The first time Victoria came to our house, she walked into the living room, looked at the mantle, and said, "Oh, what's that?" My father explained. Her response? How traditional. That was it. No sympathy. No respect. Just a dismissive comment about my mother's ashes being traditional. I should have known then. Should have seen what was coming. They married 6 months later. Small ceremony. Victoria wore white, which felt wrong, but I told myself I was being sensitive. My father looked happy. That was supposed to be enough. After the wedding, Victoria moved in. And slowly, subtly, she started changing things. First, it was the furniture. "This old couch is so dated," she'd say. "Let's get something modern." Then it was the photos. "Do we really need all these pictures everywhere? It's so cluttered." Then it was the garden. She hired someone to rip out my mother's roses. "Too much maintenance," she explained. "I'm planting something more practical." Each change felt like a small death. But I stayed quiet. For my father. The urn on the mantle, though? That stayed. It was the one thing Victoria couldn't touch. The one thing that was still my mother's. Or so I thought. I came home from work on a Thursday. Ordinary day. Nothing special. The front door was unlocked, which was unusual. I walked in, calling out, "Hello? Anyone home?" Silence. Then I heard it. A strange scraping sound from the backyard. I walked through the kitchen, out the back door, and stopped. Victoria was standing by the new garden. The one where my mother's roses used to be. She was holding something. Something wooden. Familiar. The urn. My mother's urn. Victoria. My voice came out strange. What are you doing? She turned, startled. For a moment, she looked guilty. Then her face smoothed into that perfect smile. Oh, sweetheart. I was just cleaning out some old things. This was taking up space on the mantle, and your father agreed it was time to let go. Let go? What are you talking about? She held up the urn. This. It's been 3 years. Don't you think it's time to move on? Your mother wouldn't want you clinging to remains. She'd want you to live. Give me that. I stepped forward. She stepped back. I'm trying to help you. We all need to heal. This. She shook the urn. This is preventing healing. Give me my mother's ashes. Now. Victoria's smile faded. For the first time, I saw the real her. Cold. Calculating. Cruel. I already emptied it. The words didn't make sense at first. They were just sounds. Empty. Emptied. What did that mean? What? The ashes. I scattered them. In the garden. It's where she belonged, really. With the dirt. Music cuts out, complete silence. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't process. My mother. Her ashes. The last physical trace of her existence on this earth. Scattered in the garden like fertilizer. Where? My voice was a whisper. Where in the garden? Victoria gestured vaguely. All over, really. I just shook the urn and walked around. It was very symbolic, don't you think? Dust to dust. I don't remember what happened next. I think I screamed. I think I cried. I think I fell to my knees in the dirt, trying to find something, anything, of my mother. But there was nothing. Just soil. Just plants. Just the cruel, satisfied smile of a woman who had just committed the most unforgivable act. My father came home to find me still in the garden, covered in dirt, sobbing. Victoria had gone inside. Made tea. Was sitting calmly at the kitchen table like nothing had happened. What's going on? My father asked, looking between us. Ask your wife, I managed. Ask her what she did with Mom's ashes. He looked at Victoria. She didn't flinch. I scattered them, Richard. In the garden. It was time. We needed to move forward as a family. My father's face went pale. You did what? Don't look at me like that. You agreed it was time to let go of the past. I agreed to discuss it. I never said, where are the ashes? The urn. Empty. In the trash. I watched my father's face crumble. Watched him realize what he'd married. Watched the grief hit him like a physical blow. But here's the thing about my father. He was weak. He'd always been weak when it came to conflict. And Victoria knew it. Music becomes frustrating. We'll talk about this later, he finally said. Everyone just calm down. Calm down. My mother's ashes were in the dirt, and he told me to calm down. I stood up, brushed the soil from my clothes, looked at Victoria with eyes that must have scared her, because for the first time, her perfect smile faltered. This isn't over, I said. This will never be over. I walked out, left them both standing there, got in my car and drove. I didn't come back for 3 years. 3 years passed. I built a new life. New city. New job. New friends. I went to therapy. I grieved my mother all over again, not just her death, but the desecration of her memory. I didn't speak to my father. Couldn't. Every time I thought about calling him, I remembered him telling me to calm down while Victoria sat there with her tea. I didn't speak to Victoria, obviously, but I watched. From a distance. Through mutual friends, through social media, through the occasional update that reached me. My father's health declined. Stress, probably. Guilt, maybe. He had a heart attack. Then another. Then a stroke that left him partially paralyzed. Victoria became his full-time caregiver. Or so she told everyone. In reality, she hired nurses and spent most of her time at the country club, playing the part of the devoted wife while living off his money. Then, 6 months ago, my father died. I got the call from a lawyer, not from Victoria. Your father passed away peacefully, the lawyer said. I'm handling the estate. There's a reading of the will next week. You should be there. I don't want anything from him. Miss, I strongly recommend you attend. Your father left specific instructions. It's complicated. I went. Not for the money. Foreclosure. The lawyer's office was small, professional. Victoria sat across from me in black designer morning wear, her face arranged in an expression of dignified grief. "Thank you both for coming," the lawyer said. "I'll get straight to the point." He opened a file and began reading. "To my wife Victoria, I leave the contents of our joint bank account and the use of our home for the duration of her life." Victoria smiled slightly. The house was worth millions. Additionally, the lawyer continued, "I leave Victoria the sum of $100,000 for moving expenses to be paid upon her relocation from the family home." Victoria's smile faltered. "Moving expenses? What do you mean, moving expenses?" The lawyer ignored her and kept reading. "The family home itself, along with all other properties owned by my estate, including the cottage, the investment portfolio, and the remainder of my assets, I leave to my daughter." Silence. "What?" Victoria's voice was sharp. "That's impossible. He wouldn't. I'm his wife. The will is quite clear, Mrs. Whitmore. Your husband amended it 3 years ago, shortly before his first heart attack. The house is yours to live in, but ownership passes to his daughter. You have 6 months to relocate." Victoria turned to me, her face twisted with rage. "You did this. You manipulated him while he was sick." I looked at her calmly. "I haven't spoken to my father in 3 years. You know that." "Then why? Why would he?" "He knew," I said quietly. "He finally knew what you did. And this was his way of making it right." The lawyer cleared his throat. "There's more. Your father also left a letter for you, miss." He handed me an envelope. I recognized my father's shaky handwriting. The stroke had affected his ability to write clearly. I opened it right there, in front of Victoria. "Let her watch. My dearest daughter, I know you may never forgive me. I don't forgive myself. I should have protected you. I should have protected your mother's memory. I was weak, and I failed you both." Victoria told me what she did. The truth, finally. "After you left, I made her tell me everything. And I realized I had married a monster. I couldn't leave her. The doctors said the stress would kill me faster. But I could make sure she never benefited from her cruelty. The house is yours. The money is yours. Everything is yours. She gets nothing but what she needs to leave. I'm sorry I didn't have the strength to do this while I was alive. I hope you can forgive me someday. I love you. I always loved you. And I always loved your mother. Dad." I finished reading. Looked up at Victoria. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. "This isn't over," she said. "I'll contest it. I'll fight it. I'm his widow." "Fight all you want," I said. "My father's lawyers are the best in the city. And they have copies of everything, including the letter he made you sign admitting what you did to my mother's ashes." Her face went white. "You didn't think he'd keep that? You didn't think he'd protect me somehow?" Victoria contested the will. She lost. She contested again. Lost again. 6 months later, she moved out of the family home. Into a small apartment. The kind of place she'd have laughed at 3 years ago. The $100,000 covered her moving expenses and not much else. She's working now, a boutique job, helping rich women find clothes she can no longer afford. I moved back into the family home last month. The first thing I did was walk into the backyard. The garden was overgrown. Victoria hadn't touched it in years. But something had grown there anyway. Wild roses. Climbing up the fence, blooming in impossible colors. My mother's roses. The ones Victoria had ripped out. They'd come back on their own. Music becomes emotional. I knelt in the dirt and cried. Not sad tears. Not angry tears. Just tears. For my mother. For my father. For everything lost and found. I don't know if my mother's ashes are really in that soil. Maybe they are. Maybe that's why the roses came back. I like to think so. I planted more roses last week. Dozens of them. The garden is becoming what it once was, beautiful, wild, full of life. Every morning I have coffee on the back porch, looking at those roses. And every morning I feel my mother with me. Not in an urn on a mantle, but in the soil, in the flowers, in the air, where she belongs. Here's what I learned through all of this. Some things can never be taken back. Some acts are unforgivable. But justice? Justice can come from unexpected places. From a father who finally found his strength too late. From a lawyer who believed in right and wrong. From wild roses that refused to die. Victoria thought she'd won. She thought she'd erased my mother from existence. But you can't erase love. You can't destroy memory. You can't kill what's planted in someone's heart. My mother is still here. In me. In this house. In these roses. And Victoria? She's in a small apartment, counting her pennies, wondering where it all went wrong. I could feel sorry for her. Sometimes I almost do. Then I remember the urn. The ashes. The garden. The smile on her face while she scattered my mother to the wind. And I go back to drinking my coffee, surrounded by roses, at peace. If this story touched your heart, smash that like button. Tell me in the comments, have you ever lost someone you loved? How did you keep their memory alive? Share this with someone who needs to remember that love never truly dies. And subscribe for more stories about justice, family, and the things that matter most. Thanks for listening. And remember, the people we love never really leave us. They live on, in us, in our memories, in wild roses that refuse to die.